Yeah, I'll be offended if I were Italian. I saw this movie because this movie doesn't depict Italians any better. Like it was just like let's reduce racism to just
hey, I'm walking here. I'm really walking here, dude. Everyone was walking here all the time.
I couldn't get it, man. Like, and another thing too that was funny, like, which was really big, is that he was racist, as far as like throwing glass into the trash that was used by other black people. But then he wasn't homophobic.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Weird. We'll get to the that's incredibly weird. We'll get to the beginning of the movie. I'll mostly gloss over because it was mostly just a bunch of Italians walking here.
Just like setting. I mean, it was supposed to like set the background, like as to what
I guess. He does a good job of that. But for the record, welcome to the show, everyone. I'm Jeff and Georgia. I'm joined with my friend here, Cole, to talk about Green Book. We're doing our own little Green Book thing. We got a white guy driving the podcast and a black guy in the back. But we're gonna be quite a bit better than that film, I hope, because we're not here to praise it for sure.
And I hope you don't feed me radioactive fried chicken. All right.
Oh shit, man. Okay. Oh man, I'm about to tear into this movie. All right. So let's get started. So this film, just to introduce it for you, this film won 3 awards: Best Picture, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Supporting Actor for Mahershala Ali. Excuse me if I'm mispronouncing his name, but who is quite good at the film. So props to him for sure. He plays Dr. Don Shirley, whose tour through the South involves the use of the film's eponymous Green Book. He's driven by a kind of like lower class, slobbish white mob guy who's very Italian, who is played by Viggo Mortensen, who dropped the N-bomb and because of that didn't get an Oscar. That's true. Like literally, he was up for an Oscar and he dropped the N-bomb at a screening, and everybody was like, the buzz was nobody was going to vote for him after that, and he did not end up taking home an Oscar. So, if you want to win awards, don't just say the N-word for no reason. If you're a white dude.
You can throw the glasses in the trash though, and shit post on
Twitter. You can totally, or you can just make like a dog shit fucking feel good liberal bait movie. Oh my god! Okay.
I swear.
So really, the only 2 people talking about in this movie worth like going into at all really are Viggo Mortensen's character, Tony the Lip, right? Not Tony the Lip, not Tony the Lip, Tony Lip.
Yeah, Tony Lip. Yeah.
he's the Italian guy, of course, and Dr. Don Shirley, who's we've looked into a little bit. We'll talk about the real life Shirley and how pissed off his family, or at least some of his family, was at this movie. But all that being said, back to what I really wanted to get back to, because was what we're talking to, is those fucking glasses.
Yeah.
All right. So you got the opening scene where the guy, he's punching some asshole in the club who's getting handsy with one of the girls selling cigarettes or something, right? Whatever, right? It's just like an opening to his world. So he crashes like early in the morning with the sunset. He wakes up and there's 2 black guys in his kitchen doing repair work. And his Italian, and this is like the very beginning of the movie. This is like the second scene, I'd say, right?
Yeah.
Well, I guess
more like the third.
Yeah, the third scene. And they're talking in Italian about these black guys who they call eggplants, which I did not know was a racial slur in Italian. Yeah. Did you? I had not.
I had. Because I have cousins that live in New York, so they would whenever they're imitating like an Italian cop that is like a caricature of a racist Italian cop, they always like Bolognese, like they do that a lot. but I never like
I got you.
I didn't grow up around that, so I don't
Right.
know
It's kind
that.
of quaint, right? But
Yeah,
whatever. So and he sees him in there and he's not like super happy about it, but like, he shrugs it off like, hey, I didn't know they were gonna sin, whatever.
okay, real quick, like
Uh-huh.
right there in that spot, right? I think the motivation behind that scene was to show that even though he comes from like a very racist, like his grandfather's, I mean, his dad is like the old school racist. He's like a new school racist. Like he's okay with black people working on his property, right? Like he's not as bad as like, no, I'm not gonna offer black people
Or at
economic
least he
progress.
wasn't at least he wasn't bothered enough by it to say anything about it or say
Yeah,
he's gonna call anyone about it and complain or
yeah,
nothing like that, right? He just kind of lets it.
yeah. They're
But
they're just trying to paint a picture that he's a good racist guy. Basically, that's
except
the glass.
except those fucking glasses, because he
Yeah,
sees those guys drink out of glass. They're just drinking some tap water, right? So it's like,
yeah,
oh, whoopee, gave some tap water, bit so nice and charitable, right?
yeah,
And she sets the glasses like near the sink to be cleaned later, and when no one's looking, he goes over to him and he dumps them in the garbage.
yeah,
And I was thinking, I mean, maybe this is like silly of me, but or whatever. But I was thinking, like, okay, like if you're a racist or whatever, like, fine. Like they need soap, water. Like you got to clean them extra hard because like a black person touched it. Like, why would you just throw them away? Are you serious? Like
yeah. He doesn't
that
want the
seems like
black stain.
really that's really racist, bro. Don't you think? Like
Yeah, yeah. That's deep level racist. Like, I mean,
this is
and
we should not
for
add. I just want to add real quick. Sorry, it's 1962 New York. Go ahead.
yeah, that's like deeply racist and to like the core. It's not like, I heard people saying shit about black people, so I just fell off the back. Like I'm just following the crowd type of racist. This is like, deep level racism. Like I just
Yeah.
saw a black person drink from something. I don't want the DNA because there's some bacteria or some shit with these people, and I don't want them touching my lips or whatever.
Yeah, and
Even if I wash it, like it's weird.
what didn't make any sense to me was then like he's looking for work or whatever, and he goes to an interview with Dr. Shirley to like figure out, and he gets the spiel about being his driver or
Yeah, and
whatever.
he flips.
And yeah, he doesn't take the job on the spot, but he also doesn't say like no outright. He
Yeah,
does
he
say
flips.
exactly. He does say he won't wait on him, which like that is sort of racist depending on like how much you're being paid. But I mean, I can also understand not wanting to do that kind of work under any circumstances. If you don't mind being a chauffeur, but you do not want to be someone's butler, no matter whose
Yeah,
race it is. Like I think that's more or less defensible. But he doesn't take the job of the spot. He goes home to his wife, right? And his
yeah,
wife they talking about the interview, and he's like, oh, he's a doctor. And she's like, a doctor? And he's like, yeah, like of music. You could be a doctor, a piano? And yeah, apparently. And it's
yeah,
like, newsflash, everyone, yes, you can indeed obtain doctorates in any instrument, honestly, pretty much. You can find a university with a doctorate program, I promise. Including
yeah,
piano, which is one of the more popular ones, even in the fucking 60s. How fucking dumb are these people? I'm sorry.
yeah,
This is fucking
yeah, yeah.
dumbass Italians.
No, that got to me as well. Like when they said that, like you can be a doctor. Like they try to portray these people as like, the
As if they've
root of
never heard of
racism.
a doctor that's not a medical doctor before.
Yeah,
Oh
like
my
it's not their
god.
fault. Like they try to point out, like they blew up their character so much to the point, like, oh yeah, you can't really blame these people for being racist
You made
because
them
they're just
like hyper ignorant. Yeah. So
yeah,
that they're
because
more
they're
sympathetic.
just
I
dumb.
never thought
Yeah,
of it
they're
that
just
way,
dumb.
but yeah,
Yeah,
that is kind of what they did.
yeah,
So
they're
anyway,
just dumb people, basically.
so they're talking or whatever, and she's like, oh, he's black, and like, yeah, he's black. Oh, you wouldn't last a week with him. And he's like, yeah, well, I would for the right money. And then like he does end up calling them and offering him the job, which I suspect has more to do, like the film never come out and says this, but like there's not a lot of people who are willing and able
Yeah,
to take this job. that would
So
be
he was doing him
good.
a favor.
And so like that's why even though like after he raised his price in the interview and then walked out without taking the job, gets paid what he's asked for anyway on the
Mhm.
conditions that he wants, um, because I don't think that he had very many candidates.
Options. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
but that
But
was also to
he
paint.
takes the fucking job, and he won't. He wants to throw away those glasses that two random black people drink out of, but he'll take this job. I
Yeah,
mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, how can
I
he
mean,
be? How can he be so virulently racist, but like also, you know, as long as it's like a few extra bucks, it's like $125 a week plus expenses in 1962 dollars. Like it's good money, but it's not like fucking a king's ransom. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah. Like also, like I just want to point out this, like just for myself, just to say that I don't trust the writers of this movie to like give me a story about the circumstances that led to Tony Lip giving driving Don Shirley down to the deep south. Like I don't trust
Yeah.
their because I think that part, and that this is just me. It was framed to make it seem like Don Shirley didn't have a choice but to go with this guy, and this guy was nice enough to do him a favor by driving him down south because he also had options, right? Like he had an option to like work for the Italian mob boss,
Oh yeah, they
like for
all he was
certain
getting
work.
offered work left and right, right?
Yeah, and like he had other options, but he's like, nah, I'm just gonna deep and find the goodness in my heart to like go with this black dude and just
Speaking
to go troll some white people down south. Basically, that's what.
yeah, that's his goal, which
Yeah,
we'll get a
like
little bit more into that in a second. I just want to say briefly that speaking of the film's writing, it's written by Nick Vallelonga, Brian Hayes Currie, and Peter Farrelly, who also directed it. That's Peter Farrelly of the Dumb and Dumber films.
yeah,
A
comedy.
buddy
Yeah,
comedy director. Yeah.
yeah.
And
Him and
you
his
can
brother, right?
I I really think that the movie, you can tell that it's Nick Vallelonga's story about his dad. It's really not about Don Shirley at all.
Yeah.
There's a reason he won the award for best supporting actor. So he's not a second lead or anything like that. He's definitely the secondary character. The story's all about Nick Vallelonga's dad, Tony Lip.
Okay. So he made his dad
Sorry,
look
go ahead.
good, basically. I'm just being
I
cynical. He made
mean,
his dad look good.
I mean, that's what some people in the family would say, and honestly, like on balance, I'd say that that's largely true. But in any case,
Yeah.
like advancing the plot a little bit, he takes the job, right? Okay,
Yeah.
big surprise. We were all on the hook, right? We had no idea
Yeah.
whether or not he
Yeah.
actually take the job, but he takes the job that's for a tour of the South. Now, first they're going to go out west, but then they're going to head down to the deep South, culminating in Montgomery, Alabama, or Birmingham. I forget which, but in Alabama, touring, and then they're gonna right before Christmas, and they're gonna try to get back to New York to celebrate Christmas. That's basically the plot of the movie.
Yeah.
And so they pop on the road and they're playing like concert halls and also just random like rich people's houses.
Yeah. Like rich, how'd you call
Like
Antibulum?
they're like salons, I'd say. Like they, some of them they actually do like there's a little concert pavilion and like there's a nice setup. So
Yeah.
it's not like crummy or anything like that.
Yeah.
He is a world class musician. He is. He lives
Yeah.
on top of Carnegie Hall and he does live very well, right?
Yeah.
But in any case, like so they hop on the road, and I'm sure listeners to this podcast probably caught my Green Book episode. But for the record, they're using Victor Hugo Green's Green Book, the Negro Motorist Green Book. It's basically a listing of all the businesses that will cater to black people.
It's a
Yeah,
black people a price line,
yeah,
basically.
yeah, exactly. And people can obviously check more about that in my podcast if they want to know about like the real life Green Book. But the movie's not really about the Green Book. They do refer to it a few times throughout the movie, and it gave it its name. But other than that, like it's not really about the Green Book. Unfortunately, the movie is all about how Tony becomes less racist, but also teaches Don Shirley.
To loosen up.
Well,
Yeah, and to eat fried
you say
chicken.
loosen up, but you know what? I was gonna say. I was gonna be less generous and say be black.
Yeah.
And that's pretty insulting. I should add, your listeners probably know that I am white. My guest today is African American. But I thought this is one of the first scenes that I was really like, holy shit. That fried chicken scene, man.
Dude, it's like content. Like if I were to like relate to today, would be like somebody like what's his name? Papa John's picks up I don't know, uh picks up like Lil Wayne in the backseat and they're both listening to Petty Wap or some shit. And like Lil Wayne
Wayne,
is
you don't know
like,
nothing about
yeah,
better ingredients,
yeah,
better pizza.
yeah. He's like, Lil Wayne's like, I don't know who this Fetty Wap guy is, and Papa John's trying to like break it down to him.
I
Like,
should say they're literally eating Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yeah,
Very, very prominent product placement.
Yeah, it's like, dude, like, what the fuck, man?
Because I should add, for everyone who's worried, nothing problematic happens with the staff of the KFC or at the KFC. They get the chicken and it's delicious. At KFC, doesn't do anything racist at all. Everyone enjoy your Kentucky Fried Chicken,
dude. That Kentucky Fried Chicken stand fucking scared the shit out of me, man. That stand looked.
I thought
really
for sure they were gonna. Oh, it did look kind of shady, didn't it?
Yeah, like they would have like whites only bucket.
I thought for sure.
Like,
I thought for sure some shit was gonna happen. But I should have known better that as soon as like they saw the brand name, this is the first thing he says: Kentucky Fried Chicken in Kentucky. Like, yeah, I should have known that they were not gonna like have any problems. It's 2019, and like we've got brands to protect, bro.
Yeah, and Don Shirley was like handling like the chicken, like, dude. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't care like if you've never had like I've had exotic food that I've never had before in my life, and I don't handle it like that. I don't like hold it like it's
they were like act more prissy and fey, right? Like,
yeah, like it was weird. Yeah, it was over exaggerated, and then
he was holding it like it was a bug or something, like a stick bug that someone covered in peanut butter and told him to eat, and he was like, "Oh no!"
Yeah, it was radioactive fried chicken. Basically, that's what it was.
Basically, it was like radioactive fried chicken. Like you're trying to poison me immediately. Never take food given to you from a white person ever.
And then he starts like laughing. I mean, dude, it was so cringe for it. I was just cringing the whole time.
He gets given a piece of like. Finally, he makes him take a piece of Kentucky Fried Chicken, and lo and behold, he loves it. And I should add that right before this scene, they have a little conversation about African American music on the radio, and among other artists, like Little Richard plays. And Don Shirley's like, "Ooh, what is this? This is intriguing." Right?
Yeah.
And we'll come back to the real life Don Shirley a little bit later. But for the record, like I looked into it and I looked into his music. It is absolutely preposterous to the point of insulting to assume that this man who composed great works of art that fuse classical music elements with elements of rock, jazz, spiritualism, and other things would not know. Like, oh shit, a 12-bar blues played on guitar. Like, wow, I've never heard anything like this.
This is where you're wrong. He actually learned how to do that when he went to the black bar. That's his first time. he was like, so you're probably listening to his music after that scene,
You're
basically,
right. That's
right?
what it was. I listened to that
Like,
last scene when he finally learns how to play real black
like
people music.
you
Oh
didn't,
my
you didn't,
god.
you
I
didn't
wanted
listen
to
to this
die.
old shit.
Oh my god. We'll get back to that shit. Oh man, this
Well,
movie. You can see why liberal white Oscar voters fucking love the hell out of this shit,
oh
man.
yeah, yeah, they eat that shit up. Like this movie is like reverse driving Miss Daisy. Like, like two contrasting characters that have like opposite views on race, and they happily manage to come together at the end of like the road trip. And so therefore racism is not a big deal in society. So we need to get over it, because as long as we just like go on Uber rides with racist drivers, we're good. Like,
Yeah. We
fuck
just all
off,
need to
man.
leave
Like,
behind these poor racist people. Oh my god. So we
like,
will, I don't want to go through like every scene in the movie.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Among others, like I'll just tell people, and some of these will be a little bit out of order, but they do go to like a suit shop in Macon, and he can't try on the suit; he has to buy it first, and then they just leave. And that was, it was a fine scene, but like it didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, it
Um,
didn't address anything. Like it
no, it's
was
just
just,
like they were. He was just like, "Oh, I see," and very dignifiedly
yeah,
walked out after they told him he couldn't try it on without purchasing it first, which was clearly like, there was a white guy like trying something on like right over there.
yeah, yeah. And that scene was like really problematic to me too. Like it was just a filler. It was really,
Yeah,
there was nothing to that scene. It
because they
was
had
just,
other scenes like that. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
like
where they
yeah,
just like get discriminated against, but it didn't advance the
yeah.
plot at all.
Yeah,
Um,
and also it didn't, like, that was a scene exactly like when we started, like, that was a scene that they could have expanded on, right? So like they had like this little talk at that scene, and also at, like, you might go into this like later on, but they had a talk in that scene, and that was a scene that Don Shirley could have, like, you know critique the views of Tony Lip and say, hey, you saw what just happened to me. So how can you say that to me in the car? Blah, blah, blah. That racism, like in the car, he was like, I'm more black than you or some shit like that.
he literally did tell him that. Yes, like I'm
Yeah.
blacker than you are. What he means is like he's poorer, and
Yeah.
he associates black people with poverty, uh,
Yeah.
and
I guess
like
he was
therefore he's
addressing
blacker. And
the
also, like
economic aspect.
you don't even know your own people's food and music. That's what he told him.
Yeah. And that was a scene that he could have expanded on and said, look, like, I experienced, he did it later on, but like they could have done so much more with that scene, but
Well,
they
and he
chose
never
not to.
pushes back against the idea that black culture is monolithic, because like
Yeah, like,
there were and have been and are today bourgeois, middle class black people, upper class black people, and
mhm,
working class black people or lower class black people, all of whom like different stuff. Not all black people like hip hop. Some black people like anime and sci-fi and nerd shit. Some black
yeah,
people like Star Wars. Some, just like some people like black
yeah,
culture is not a monolith. They don't all love like Michael Jackson and Little Richard. Like, yes, a lot of them do, maybe even most of them, but
yeah,
like not all of them. And that's not
yeah,
really what it is to be black in America. What it is to be black in America, at least in 1962 in Green Book, is to walk into a tailor in Macon and be told you got to buy this shit before you try it on because we don't trust you because you're
yeah,
black. That's what it means to be a black person. It doesn't have anything to
yeah,
do with these elements of music or food or culture. And like that would have been a great moment for like the film to push back on
yeah,
the idea. Totally just lets it go. And
yeah.
you know what they do instead is a really kind of weird, out of place scene where Don Shirley gets busted for cruising at the YMCA.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
Didn't
yeah.
that feel like really?
That scene was like, I mean, like, you watch movies where like it's, as a, if you're a white person, you're uncomfortable, right? Like
Right.
with certain scenes of how black people, black bodies are depicted in movies, and you're like, holy shit, like, I would I have done that in that era or whatever, right? They try not to like provoke any of those thoughts in that movie. What they did was they just flip it all the way back to like the black guy, to make him look like, like I kind of felt like on sympathetic to him as a black person, even in that scene.
I mean, it's
like
hard
I was
not
like,
to, right? Because
yeah,
the movie, it's all it does, is make you
yeah,
feel
yeah,
sympathetic to him. Well,
yeah.
most of the film.
I was just like, why is he like doing this in the deep south when he knows the climate?
Yeah, that was
like was he
weird.
Was he trying to like get
they're
caught?
in? I believe that was in. They were in Macon, or if they weren't in Macon, they had to be close by because it happens after a scene where they're in Macon, I think.
Yeah.
So it's Macon,
right.
Georgia, which is the town, by the way, that's the town right up the road from me. It's half an hour north.
Yeah, I was like, does this guy not have any common sense that this is, just do your tour and go home and have fun, right? Like,
yeah,
this is not the place to do this because you're in like a different situation. Like he was not situationally aware of anything in this movie, to be honest.
And the reason it felt
that was a reason for that.
The reason it felt out of place to me is like, I mean, yes, to everything that you said, that's part of why it felt out of place to me. The other reason is because, like the way it goes is basically like Toady gets the call, goes down to the YMCA. Him and the other guy are handcuffed to pipes in the shower. They're both
was that a wait was that a I got a question. Was that a black guy in?
Yes,
I thought it was a black.
That's the first thing I noticed. That was a black cop.
Yeah. Like
it's one white cop and one black cop who have him chained up in the shower.
Yeah. Like
that was the first thing I noticed. I was like, what the hell is happening here?
Yeah, is it like I don't know. Like this is 1961-ish, right?
Well, it was 1962.
What? Okay,
I actually don't know if Macon's police force was integrated in 1962 or not. I would say there's probably a good chance historically it actually was, believe it or not. Not that it was equal, but there were probably some black police officers, a few, I think. Okay. But I'd have to check. I don't know. But it's the first thing I noticed. Now, the way that scene goes is, first of all, that white guy who's handcuffed in the shower, I assume he's still handcuffed there because we don't know what happened to that guy. They don't be shooting kids, so I guess they just left him there to fucking rot forever. Poor guy.
I swear. Oh my god.
But he basically like goes in and it's more or less straightforward. Bribes him. Right? Like, he takes out some cash, like, look at that little contribution to the policeman's ball here while I'm walking in the shower. Right? So he pays him off. Exactly. Pays him off. And then, like, he takes him, they go back to the car or the hotel or whatever, and he's like, I told you, never go anywhere without me, and what were you thinking, Doc? And Doc says,
the white savior.
Yeah, literally, the white guy showed up and saved him. And Doc says, I thought this would be an exception. You wouldn't want to, go cruising for gay sex with me or whatever the fuck. And, and then the scene just like kind of ends. And
they had a conversation about him and how he feels about gay people, and he was like, "No, I'm cool."
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's the other reason. He's like, I work. He does work in like show business as a bouncer a lot.
Yeah,
and
I see a lot
so
of those.
Like it is presumably like he could, like, yes, there's a long tradition of like some gay people. They flock towards theater and shows and show business and stuff like that. Like, yes, this is true, but he's just like. This is a dude who like if a black person touches his glass, those are the garbage. And you're telling me like gay people, it's just like, whatever, it's fine. I'm cool with that. I know how it is. It's just how fucking show business goes.
Yeah, and then also like he didn't interrogate him in that scene. Like he could have. That was a scene that he could have interrogated him. As to like, you don't find it weird that you're okay with, gay people?
Oh no challenge at all, bro.
Yeah, like, they didn't want to seem controversial. Like that was just really like a very convenient scene that they broke out. It was left in the cliffhanger. Like they could have explored that question, like how come you're okay with gay people, but you have a you have a history of being racist towards black people? Like, what's you know
Yeah,
that's not
he's
normal.
never.
That's not
He's never.
normal.
No, it's not. It's
That's
1962. You
weird.
tell me those two things don't go hand in hand? That's crazy.
In
Uh,
1961,
no,
like
1960. I believe it's 1962.
62. Yeah. Sorry, but like
No, it's okay.
around that time period, like most people that were, I mean, queers didn't have it easy in those time periods.
Well,
You know what I
they're
mean? Like,
in. They don't ever say exactly where they are, but I'm pretty sure it's still Macon, Georgia. They didn't say they left or anything. So I mean,
yeah,
they're somewhere around Macon, Georgia, which like that's pretty insane to me. But anyway, moving on a little bit from that, I want to talk
yeah.
about the two more scenes. It's two scenes where they get pulled over by cops, basically.
Hmm.
And we'll probably spend most of the time on the first one and the consequences of that, because I don't know if you found that disturbing when they got caught in a sundown town.
Yeah.
In terms of the way the movie played it, especially in terms of like what happened like right after that in the movie. I didn't care for it, but let me just describe real quick like what happens.
Mhm.
So the weather's bad. It's like raining real hard, and they get pulled over. Who knows why? Like while they're in a back road somewhere, and the cop sees that there's a black guy in the back, and that's a problem because it's a sundown town. No black people are allowed on the roads after night. So
Yeah.
they got to get out of the car now, and basically they end up getting arrested and taken to jail after
Yeah.
Viggo Mortensen's character gets called quote half an N-word yourself. He doesn't say N-word, of course, but because he finds out he's Italian, and apparently like that's you're half a black person if you're Italian, which that's not an equation I've heard before, but apparently he found it insulting enough to literally like punch the cop in the face, which I was at first I was like, yes, this is awesome. But the problem
he
is
was punching for the wrong reasons.
That is true, but you see a cop get punched, you can't help but smile a little bit. Just reflect. I'm just saying.
It was a good. It was his response was problematic. The whole scene was really problematic.
The problematic part for them, of course, is that there's another cop right there with a gun.
Yeah,
and so he pulls the gun, and now they're going into jail. I'll pause there and let you comment on it, but that's where they've been basically arrested for one of them being black after and the white guy punching a cop in the face.
That scene was really weird because like the other cop, he was nicer, right? He was way nicer than the other guy. The other guy was
they do have rights, sir. That's what he says. Oh, thanks. Fucking Malcolm X over here.
Yeah, like he was kind of like I want to play it by the book. That scene was just trying to prove to you that even back then there were good white people. That was still.
I mean, he at least like wasn't that big a prick.
Yeah, like
now that part of the scene was not really what got me or whatever.
Yeah,
but what because what pissed me off is what happens next and how they play it, right?
Yeah, in the jail.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So at the jail, he.
If you want to tell people, go ahead.
Okay, so he calls. Like they're in the jail and they start having this back and forth argument, and the cops are like sitting there looking at them, and they put them all in the same like cell, and then I think Don was like, "Look, after all this, you're here with me." Or some shit like that, and it's your fault. Like,
actually, I'm sorry to correct you, but the sequence of events here is just like really important because I think it it's a reason why the scene like bothered me more.
Okay,
Because there's exactly what happens. First thing that happens is like they cut to the jail cell, and Dr. Shirley is standing up. He's still dressed in his suit. He's very respectful, prim, proper, speaks very respectfully but firmly that he has rights and that he's being detained unlawfully and unconstitutionally, and that he would like to use the phone to call a lawyer as is his guarantee. And he's like literally almost verbatim says it like I did. He's very, very chill about it. And finally, like, they let him make a phone call. And then he goes and makes a phone call. Comes back to the cell, and then he has that conversation that I would like you to tell him about with Tony Lip.
Yeah. So they have this, conversation where, if I remember correctly, Tony was like, you don't even act black. You don't do anything that's black. You're just this uppity guy, whatever. And then Don Shirley is just like hit him with like a bunch of like platitudes. Be the good man. Like, I don't remember exactly, but like, you have to like rise.
Dignity will always triumph.
Yeah, some bullshit like that. And then, I was a little bit confused as to why he wasn't so angry, and also as to why he kind of handled everything, just weirdly normal.
Yeah, it's like what I hated about that speech was the like almost fetishization of respectability politics.
Yeah,
like that being respectable and playing the game always wins in the end.
Yeah, and also like this is a way to portray that, hey, it's kind of like a signal to black people by white elite liberals, like, hey, you just need to act this way and everything's gonna be okay.
And eventually, everything will be okay. And you know how it'll be okay, Cole? Oh my God, I'm fucking pissed off now. Because you know how it'll be okay? How it'll be okay is at the climax of your speech with the music swelling about how dignity always triumphs over brutality and crudity. The phone will ring, and on the other end will be the governor of the state that you're being held in, and he'll be demanding your release. And the reason he's on the phone with those redneck cops who've got you in jail unconstitutionally is because he just got a call from the lawyer that Don Shirley called, who happens to be Bobby Kennedy, the Attorney General of the United States of America, which is fucking ridiculous. Yeah. Apparently, by the way, this really did happen, not in 1962, but in 1964. He did have to call Bobby Kennedy and get out of jail. And this happened like just a few days before JFK was assassinated. But he did get bailed out of jail by the Attorney General of the United States.
And also the guilt that he felt afterwards was really like,
oh my God,
weird as well. Like, you just made me do that. Like, I didn't want to do that. Like, I'm
literally another white savior will just swoop in. Like, I hated it, bro.
I shouldn't have done that. You just made me do this, and I was just like, dude, like you're in the right. Like, why you feel so much guilt? Like, you did the right thing. You shouldn't have been locked up. The law is fucked up, right? Like, this is not your fault. And why are you blaming? I guess that's his personality, but again, I don't trust these guys writing this.
I mean, that by itself, I hear what you're saying. I don't disagree with you. I'm not sure I agree with you though either, because that particular detail didn't really bother me. But what bothered me is, first of all, like the idea that like right after this, like literally, like the Attorney General is like a Deus Ex Machina, a magical fairy. A white person just shows up and like saves you over the telephone if you participate in respectability politics. But the other thing I hated about it is when Tony argues with him like, hey, you called in a favor. Like, what's the big deal? Like, that's what favors are for, and that's what the guy gets paid for. He is really, really upset because he doesn't feel like he played the respectability game well enough, because now
Yes,
he's associated with a common thug who punches police officers. And I'm
that's
like,
exactly my point.
dude, what the fuck is wrong with
Yeah,
you?
that's
And he's like,
exactly
and
my
his
point.
only response to that is him and his brother have bigger things to do. They're trying to change the world. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wank jerk off motion times 1,000. Like
Oh my
that's my response to that.
like that's exactly my point is that like he's feeling bad for doing nothing really in a situation where he should be the most angriest person, but they're trying to portray his character so docile that he's like it's just weird. It's a weird, like, I get like you can do the Malcolm X brand of race stuff, and then you can do the Martin Luther King brand, but this is just way too much. Like, I don't even think Martin Luther King in that
I
situation would
mean,
be like,
even the MLK style non-violent,
yeah,
what we would
would not,
consider so-called what we would consider moderate civil rights activists
yeah,
today, historically speaking, as opposed to like the more radical black militant and some
yeah, like
radical
conformist.
yes, exactly. Like, I mean, even they like did
They're
participate in
radical.
massive civil disobedience,
Yeah,
which
they're radical in some form.
means breaking the law. It does.
Yeah,
It means breaking the law. It means acting unlawfully, which is, in a way, like an act of violence. At least, like, that's how they were treated. And this movie doesn't just erase more militant black people like Malcolm X or Fred Hampton or many others, but
hmm
it also erases anyone like Martin Luther King or the Southern Christian Leadership Council, I think, too. Those people are nowhere in this movie. The only person who's apparently crusading throughout the South to break the color barrier is Don Shirley.
actually, it's Tony Lip.
Yeah. He's also similarly unwanted everywhere as an Italian guy. Oh my god! All right,
it's
dude.
Tony Lip. Like,
I want to talk about the other time they get pulled over. If you don't have anything else to say about
oh yeah, go ahead.
their pull away from the South, because oh wait, I suppose we should talk about like the last performance, because there was something like narratively I just thought didn't work in the movie
Which
either.
last one? Well, no.
The one in
Wait, before
Alabama.
that, yeah, is it the one with the white people, and then
Yes, and
they
he
want
won't.
him to use the latrine outside, like
Oh
they wanted
no,
it.
that's another one, but we can talk about that if you want.
Yeah, let's talk about the one you wanted to talk about first, but I want to hit that one as well. Like, that one was, whew.
All right, let's do the latrine first, because the one in Alabama, the last one, I have my own specific problems with it. It has to do with like where it falls in the movie and why. But I think before they get pulled over in that sundown town, yes, they have that other performance. I think somewhere like in the Carolinas or like some of the northern
Mhm,
part of the Confederacy.
mhm.
And uh, he has to use the facilities, and there's a really nice restroom right there, but the he's directed to the really shitty out looking outhouse out back, and
Yeah.
he's like, no, I can't do it. And so they're like, um well, it's not that bad. And he's like, well, if I can't use this bathroom here, I guess I could go all the way back to the hotel, but that would take me like half an hour. And he's like, well, I guess we'll wait for you then. So his bluff is called, and now they're driving back to the hotel to use the bathroom.
And I I mean, like, he did okay, so that was the scene. I guess that was when he started realizing, like, man, I shouldn't be doing this. Like, fuck this noise, why am I even, like, he was getting some type of awakening as to, like, even though he plays music and they cherish his genius in, like,
And he mostly like
composing music.
plays by the rules that's up until this point.
Yeah, yeah, and but like nobody, like, even though he does that, people still treat. I guess he had a sense of that before then, but he didn't. It wasn't like it wasn't. He didn't. experience it, I guess, really until then, I have a problem with that. Like
I
he didn't
mean, the
experience
way
all the different types of ways that white people treated him until that particular scene where he also like, I guess you're gonna go to the other scene where he decides not to play at all, right? Like,
well, in a way, he challenges them, but in a way, like he acquiesces. Like he does come back and play for them, but like
yeah,
literally is gone for an hour so they can use the bathroom at his hotel. Um,
it, yeah, but
which
that
like
was
makes
like,
makes a point, but he still plays like, and I can kind of respect that because he makes a point as an activist and still fulfills his obligation as a professional who has a dedication to his craft, and like I can respect like both of those things.
yeah, I mean, I can like I will disagree there,
Mm-hmm.
because what I think he should have done is like once they told him go use the latrine like outside, he could have just said, "Fuck this noise, I'm out of here. I'm going to my," or maybe say, "I'm
But
going
then
to
they don't
like,"
get paid, and he keeps bringing that up,
okay,
which
yeah,
is the
yeah,
reason why I have a problem with the last scene though,
yeah, okay,
or the last performance, I should say, because he says over and over and over again, including in that jail cell scene, that like now we're gonna miss the last
mhm,
performance and we're gonna lose a lot of money, including you, because you got us
yeah,
arrested. Then they go to the final performance, and the problem here is that he can't eat in the dining room with his friends
yeah,
and and Tony. And this time he demands, eventually demands to be seated, or
yeah,
he's not going to play. And Tony comes over and is like, "Hey, what's the problem here?" And eventually, like the maitre d pulls Tony aside and basically says, "Like, look, get your buddy to play ball. How much is it going to take?" Pulls out his wallet and starts counting money, right? And Tony's like,
yeah,
"How dare you?" And is about to fucking lay the guy out, right?
yeah,
when of course like Don Shirley shows up. Don Shirley not all about that anti-fall violence. Don Shirley not about that. Don Shirley says, "No, you know what? It's fine, but you know what?
It's up to you.
Let's uh." He
You
says,
decide
"Don't
if I
do it."
play or not.
And I thought Tony told him, you know, "Hey Doc, what do you want to do?" Like,
Yeah.
and Doc's like, "We're done here," or something like this, right?
No, no, he said like some in this fact that like I would play if you like I wouldn't play
Oh
if
no,
you
he does
decide.
say he does say, "I'll play if you ask me to." I
Yeah,
believe.
exactly. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like with your permission, I would play. If not, like
Like,
let's
Tony,
go.
I'll play if you want me to,
Yeah.
and
And
they leave instead.
yeah. I guess
And what's
Tony
like that's
forfeited
like
money.
I don't know, like that's fine. Like narratively, that's fine for me, except like the big problem with every time like Tony shows his ass by acting uncouth or punching a cop or eventually like starting to get offended at the discrimination Don Shirley suffers, he's
Hmm.
constantly told by Don Shirley that like, look, he's got a job. Among other things, they got a job and they got to get paid. And he does have to get
Yeah.
paid too, right? Like he's got to make a living and support his family. He's got a wife and kids back home. He's doing this for. So like they do.
Yeah.
Don Shirley, probably doesn't want to lose the money, but I don't think like he'll be in the poorhouse, right? But still, even so, like they have an obligation with the record company too. They have to play every performance, and then finally, like this one last act of discrimination is enough to just be like, you know what? Actually, all that other shit that I scolded you for, nah, I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
come on, man. Like, what? Like, just as a like narratively speaking, maybe not so much like the racial politics. Because
Hmm.
like, look, the guy doesn't want to play with these racist white people. Won't let him sit there. Like, what? I hate that. I can't say that. That's not what I mean at all. Because that's fine. That could totally work. The problem is like the movie built up the fact that like if they don't play every single venue, no matter what, then they don't get paid, and
Yeah.
he just walks away from it as it seems like just based on nothing but emotional decision making, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
weird to me.
Yeah, and that emotional decision making should have come like should have came sooner in real life. Like it took that much buildup for him to be like, you know what? I don't need to be here because this is feeding into the actual racism that I'm trying to prevent. You know, people having to use certain mechanisms to force me to play while I don't get the benefit of just being just being a human being, like period, like just having the right to eat in a regular, stand. Like basically, that's it. That's all he wanted, but they require so much of him without giving him just the basic benefit, right? And for him to like build up all the way to that and decide, you know what, this is the straw that broke the camel's back, so I'm just gonna like say fuck it and let's go home. Like I feel like he's privileged enough that if he didn't play in the South, he would be fine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like he would have been fine. Like he's not financially like uptight. Like he has enough that he could have played anywhere else. You know, even in the movie they mentioned that he could have played anywhere else in the North and made 10 times the amount that he was making in the South.
Yes, the movie tells you explicitly that he's doing this because he wants to desegregate America and advance his race. Period.
Yeah, but I was I don't know, like again, like I don't want to say Don Shirley himself thought this way because I don't trust the guys that wrote this movie, like I mentioned a couple of times. So, but like that's not a good way to desegregate the South, you know?
Well,
like,
I mean, we did have like freedom riders and like black entertainers, traveling and playing throughout the South for white audiences. I think was an important way to chip away at the color barrier. But what's weird to me is that again, like it's not like he couldn't have seen this coming, and he plays it like he's surprised, and he also plays it the whole time like playing all of these stops even for these racist people is something that he's decided to do. And I know it is a gross act of discrimination, don't get me wrong, but comparatively speaking to the other things that happen to him, like when he gets beat up, right?
Yes.
The act of being denied service at a fancy restaurant or at the fancy country club restaurant, I should say, like doesn't seem, it seems kind of anticlimactic that's the final straw. Not him getting beat up or unjustly arrested or anything like that,
Or living in a really shitty hotel while his driver lives in a fancier hotel.
Yeah, like none of that, or even just like how stupid and racist his driver is, like all the time. None of that puts him over the edge. Just this one, I'm sorry, but predictable act of legal racial discrimination, which he is fighting against, and I get that, and that's good. But like, and if the act of walking out dramatically like also helps fight that, I'll take that too. But the film doesn't set that up at all.
Yeah, it was like an impromptu. Like they've delved so deep into.
It just felt like we're at the end of Act 2, and they need a triumphant moment. So.
Yeah, like they've dealt so deep into like the stupid psyche of Tony Lip that they needed something to rejuvenate the other aspect, the other character of the movie to make him look.
Movie's got too much lip.
Yeah, exactly. So they had to put in
balance it out a little bit.
Yeah, they had to put in Don Shirley's moment of. Yes, like, oh shit, everybody get up on your seat and clap. Like he stood up.
The music does a lot of that work for you. Like it tells you to stand up. Yeah.
Like he's fighting the power.
Exactly. He's fighting the power by walking out.
Yeah.
I want to talk about one of the scene before we basically talk about the end of the film and then like final thoughts. And that's the second time they get pulled over by police officers.
Yeah. And
I want to ask you a quick question. Did you watch this movie with like subtitles on?
Yes, I did.
The first time I watched the movie, I didn't watch with subtitles on. The second time I watched it, I had subtitles on.
I did the first time. Yeah.
I don't know if it was the same for you on your subtitle file, but there's a scene where like it's snowing, and I think they're in Ohio. It seems like they're in Ohio, so they're getting further north now,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like identical to the scene where they get pulled over by the sundown town cops in terms
Yes.
of like how it's shot and the music and the
Yeah.
feel, right? Like weather's
White
bad, late at night,
white
and
savior.
here comes a car up coming up behind him, and it's following him close, and then the siren starts.
Yeah.
Shit,
Yeah.
5-0. And the music starts getting more tense, swells, and I swear to God, this is why I asked about the subtitles. Cop walks up to the window, and I swear on my subtitle file it said bracket non-Southern accent. Hey, you folks doing okay?
Wait, it said that? I have to look it up. Like
Mine said non-Southern accent,
I
like
have to look it up.
explicitly non-Southern accent.
Oh man.
And and he was just like, well, how diddly do, drivers? How are you today? And the music totally turns, the scene totally turns, and he takes the flashlight, he looks at the guy in the front and the guy in the back, and Tony's like, hey, yo, is there a problem, officer? We're just driving here. You know, sorry the weather's bad. And he's
Yeah.
like, well, I'll say there sure is a problem, sir. It appears your right back tire is a little low. It appears it's going to go flat soon. Let me help y'all change that in this terrible weather.
Yep.
And so then the fucking scene
A
changes.
good Samaritan.
Yeah. And the cop is fucking like in the freezing snow with a flashlight and road cones out, directing traffic around them, helping them change the fucking tire. Because it's a white cop and they're in like Ohio now, or like fucking Kentucky or Tennessee or fucking Delaware. I don't fucking know. Jersey. It doesn't fucking matter. Wherever they are in the north. You think there's fucking white racist cops out in the country roads where they're driving? Yes, there are. But this cop, like, he is like Johnny
Jesus.
Officer. Oh man. He's officer friendly, bro. He's there to help you out, man. Oh, you're black in your car? Well, we love that. In fact, we offer complimentary road work to you. I swear to God, I was like, I half expected him to pull out his wallet at the end of the scene and be like, you folks doing okay on gas money? Can I throw you a couple dollars?
You need a blanket?
Yeah, anything else I do for you? How about a complimentary blowjob from Ohio's finest? Like, what is this guy not going to offer them? You know, and it was so bizarre. And they just really wanted to make clear that, like, oh, they're not in the South anymore. Everything's okay. All the cops are like fucking guardian angels now.
Yeah, it was so convenient because it just kind of like it's a movie to make white liberals feel good. Like,
and I'm just saying, man. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'll let you finish. But real quick, it's not just historical inaccuracy; it's fucking present day inaccuracy, bro. You don't think there's any white racist Ohio cops out in those back roads?
Yeah, like it was one of those moments that like there wasn't any real story to tell there, except for to tell the story that there are still good white cops. You know, there's still good white people in position of power. And if you're just willing to work with them, if you're just nicer to them, you receive the same favor in reverse from them. Like, you know, not all cops are bad cops, you know. And it's like anybody that says, you know, that brings up that argument a lot of times is doing it in bad faith. Like, I'm just going to say this out there. Like, you know, when people are like, well, you know, not all cops are bad, you know, some of them are good or blah, blah, blah. It's just like, yeah, that's not the context that you want to talk about race issue.
Yeah, I think there's two things to remember about propaganda. The first is that propaganda doesn't mean a lie. It can often be true because the truth is that there are good cops who, like, yeah, might be nice enough to pull you over and
Yeah,
tell you that your car is
I've
running
experienced good
low and help
cops.
you change your tire. Like those
Yeah,
cops do exist. It's not about whether or not they do or don't exist. It's where and when you choose to employ that example rhetorically or in your film, right?
yeah. In context, like this film was supposed to be like about race issues, right? But they tend to emphasize so much on if you're racist, you're dumb and stupid, right? Like the way those cops
And
at the
probably from the South.
yeah, like if you're racist, that's who you
Or
are.
you're a
But
dumb New York Guido.
yeah, yeah. But if you're black and you experience good things, it's because you have good manners. And if you're you're proper, right? And then if you're how do you call it? Uh you're not controversial at all, basically. If you want to experience the good life and you're black, you just gotta be proper and be presentable. People are going to be mean to you, but at the end of the day, you're going to be okay because people are going to
Yeah, as long as you play that
yeah,
because that scene in that jailhouse, man, it's the climax of the film. They play it so heavy. I really think that's like the central message that like really clinched it for the Oscar voters. I think they saw that scene and were like, yeah,
that's
because
a powerful moment.
it's all about like dignity in the face of oppression. Like,
Yeah,
like because they go low, we go high, man.
yeah. It's just like I don't buy that shit. That's not what got us like all the good shit, right? It's not.
I mean, I think
no.
I just think you need everything.
You need everything, exactly. But
you need hard scrabble people who are radical and nonconformist. You need people who are also like kind of respectable and bourgeois and liberally acceptable to like liberal establishment to also like try to make change. And you need everything in between those two things. I think
you do,
but you do. It's the problem is that I think like a lot of people they really do like essentialize this where like no, it's just and they also like frankly misremember and reductivize like Martin Luther King, for example, right, as like a moderate when at the time like he was considered very, very radical.
Yeah, he was a communist by
according to the FBI. Yeah.
Like I mean, what I'm saying though is like I'm not saying you don't need to work within institutions to get shit happening. Yeah, there are people that work within institutions to actually make changes, right? Like JFK is one of them. His brother is another one. I mean, not as blown out.
I'd say his brother more so. I mean, unfortunately, he was assassinated. Before he really had a chance to get off the ground. But
yeah, but you have people like that, right? That inspire that, hey, we can all have this upward mobility at some point. And then you have the guys at the ground that are actually doing the protesting, civil disobedience, and that type of stuff. It's a whole like movement. I get that. But when people tend to like emphasize that, oh, we're not going to look at the institutional racism so much. It's just the individuals within that institution that are, they're just idiots and they're not smart enough. And that's why they're racist. And, if we, I don't know, like it's just, it doesn't jive well with me. Like if people overemphasize that so much in movies, it's just like,
right.
You're just trying to appeal to authority. That's it. Like you're not trying to be controversial, radical, or anything. You just want to, play.
It's a fantasy.
Rules.
The movie is a fantasy about playing by the rules and like what that can get you.
Yeah, and that also like takes away from people that are actually trying to act people. I'm talking like whites, blacks, any race, right? People that are actually seeing injustice and go, wow, this is fucked up. This needs to change. They can just sit back and go, you know what? I don't have to do anything. The people that are experiencing this, discrimination can just, pull their pants up and talk like, Don Shirley.
You just have to invite him. You just have to invite him into your house at the movie. And then all of a sudden, like all your really racist Italian family members, like suddenly don't make
They're
any
not
fuss
racist
about it
anymore.
anymore. Well, at
Yeah.
least they don't show it. Like or the movie just ends before they have a chance. Like,
And
and that's basically how the movie ends. It's kind of the ending was like flat to me. I don't really give a shit
yeah.
about the
I
ending.
wanted to say that about the ending too, because like the character development of Tony Lip, I didn't see any type of character
No.
development. It was just a racist guy with a black friend. That's it. Like,
Yeah, racist guy learned that like you could still have black friends. And
yeah,
so
like
like that all the
that's it.
racist people, it's okay, there's hope for you. You can have a black friend.
Yeah, and there wasn't any urge like that. He didn't interact with any civil rights, activists
No, and
down.
they didn't talk about it at all. I
Yeah,
don't
I
think.
found that I'm really cynical, and I don't trust the writers. Again,
Yeah,
like,
like Brown v. Board was 8 years before the events of this movie. They don't talk about any of that shit.
yeah, like he didn't interact with like the black characters were like not
Oh, dude.
intellectually
Okay, I want to
there,
say this for the
right?
record. I felt like the way the movie portrayed every single black character who was not Don Shirley incredibly
Was
one
bad.
dimensional and offensive.
Yeah,
Do you
like
agree?
it was offensive to me. I do agree. It was offensive to me. Even the characters in the bar, like, it
Right.
was just like they had
I
no
mean, they were
agency.
nice enough, but
Yeah,
one
but like,
one dimensional.
yeah, like they had no agency. They were like they looked so surprised that he was able to play the piano so good.
Yeah, they're just
Like,
there to like represent, his race and how he's a part of it now.
yeah, like I don't believe that's like okay, here's like, I'm not a movie writer, I'm not a writer or anything, but in my perspective, what would make a good scene? I'm not saying like in that particular like scene, right, would be him, because Don Shirley was, if this is where they're going, like if as far as his character in real life, right, that would be in a scene where he could have interacted with like some positive, black activist or whatever, right, in that scene, and that person questioned him like, so where are you from? You don't sound like you're from here. You're from New York? Oh wow, that's great. So how's it like in New York? Well, like we're gonna be doing a march tomorrow, blah blah blah. Have, because I'm pretty sure bars are like places where a lot of activists would organize and stuff, because that's like a black establishment, right? Like, but none of that, right? He
Nope,
was just like
nothing like that.
flat, like
And or
it
they
was
could
just
have
a
gone the
flat.
other way. The other thing I was thinking is that honestly, like instead of getting up there and like basically playing like a very little bit of like classical music and then like basically jamming out to some 12-bar blues, he could have played like, dude, just play Gershwin for them or something. That's or it could have played like any number of actual art music on that piano, like
Yeah,
not just like the what, and then like, oh cool, he played his thing and now like let's get up there and play like the blues with him, and now like he's a real assimilated like black person. and
yeah,
and
it's
thank God Tony Lip was there to bring him all that way on that journey, right, to make him a real black person. It's fucking insulting to
yeah, it is.
everyone.
It is.
Oh my God.
Like he doesn't have any agency in that movie, even amongst his own people.
I mean,
It's
I will
Tony
say
Lip.
that, like, in some ways, I found his character interesting. In a lot of ways, it wasn't so much that he was flat; it's just that, like, he didn't make any sense as a character.
Yeah,
Like he was,
he was.
he's a black person who doesn't know how to be black, and like, in the movie, like, lays into that so hard. It does not feel real to me in any way.
It didn't feel real to me neither. It
I
was
want to
just.
I do want to talk a little bit about before we go and we give our concluding thoughts
Mhm.
about the relatives. Did you read about the how his relatives, Don Shirley's relatives, that is, felt about
Yeah,
this
yeah,
film?
yeah. His they didn't. They thought it was inaccurate. They thought like those
Oh
two became friends
yeah,
like just recently. They weren't friends at all, even after
I
the
want to
trip.
say two things sure that I know, and in addition to what I've already said about Don
Mhm.
Shirley's musical knowledge and him not knowing what blues rock and roll is, It's fucking insulting. The first thing is that the movie mentioned this. Really, it goes nowhere, just gratuitously, that Don Shirley and his brother
Yeah.
estranged. I don't know why they did this. I don't know why they included these lines in the film. In real
It-
life, their relationship was fine, even particularly strong. The real Don Shirley served as the best man at his brother's wedding in 1964, 2 years after the events of this film. So I don't
yeah.
know why this. I don't know why they just shit all over his
It was
brother
ingenuous.
Reese Shirley for no reason.
Yeah, yeah, it was because like Don Shirley's relationship, like the black patriarchy back in those days, right? And he was being a queer black guy
Right.
within that time period.
It
I
did.
feel like
It did make him. I hear that he was somewhat socially isolated in real life.
yeah, yeah,
Probably
like he
because
had
of
an
this.
on and off. Yeah, he had an on and off relationship with his family. That's like really interesting to explore, right? Like that would be like a good movie for just about anybody knowing like the relationship that minorities had to like deal with white supremacy and queerness and all this other stuff. Like that's a good dynamic to have because I
Yeah,
think
it
like a
would
lot of
be.
movies.
Although, to my knowledge, like his family and him got along fine, as far as
Yeah,
I
no,
know,
they
in real
did.
life.
They did like later on, but I think like in real life,
Oh, were there
y-
problems in the '60s
yeah,
though?
they had like a little bit on and off. He was estranged from his family at some point until like he became uh like he went back to his
Rich.
family. They reconnected they reconnected it. And I think he's like Jamaican too. Like let me
Yes, he
yeah,
was.
yeah,
I mean, well, Jamaican in the sense that his parents were from Jamaica. He himself was
yeah,
born in Florida.
in
He was
New
marketed early on in his music career as having been born in Jamaica, but apparently he was not really born in Jamaica.
yeah. Yeah, and like a lot of Caribbean like I have Caribbean family members as well, and like homophobia is kind of
It
a
is
big
somewhat
thing.
more prominent in
Yeah,
like
with like
community
Caribbean
there. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I can see how like they're maybe like conservative about that, and that would have been an issue with him, with his lifestyle and how they treated him and how he reconciled with that, how he had to like face those challenges while also facing the challenge of being a black man playing for white people, right? Like that's something that could have been a really good movie, but instead they took this route, uh, which is this supposed to be a comedy or is this supposed to be like a real life changing, like what's the motivation behind this, right? And I can I don't know, like the motivation all I can think of is it's racist, like you know
It's a movie designed to make white people feel better about
like
themselves, I think.
yeah, it's at this, like in today's world, like people that watch movies like yourself and I, like our age group, are very critical when we watch movies. Like we're trying to find out like what's going on here, like we're very critical about movies. And I feel like we've seen so many movies like this already and we're done with that. And every year it's always like mental, a movie about somebody with mental difficulties or like mental illness or something like that, right? Or a movie about LGBTQ, or a movie about race. Like it's always those things every time, and they always use the same formula. Like there's no actual critique of racism or anything like that. It's just this, I don't know, it's dumb. It really is.
Real
Every,
quick, the only other thing I wanted to say about the Shirley family's reaction, the other big real complaint they have is basically that like Tony was never really Don's friend. At least
yes.
that's what they contend. At least not until later in life.
Yeah.
They did know each other and in fact died just days apart a few years ago. But quote, my brother never considered Tony to be his friend. He was an employee, his chauffeur, who resent wearing a uniform cap. This is why context and nuance is so important. The fact that a successful, well-to-do black artist would employ domestics that did not look like him should not be lost in translation, end quote. That was what he had to say, at least.
Yeah.
Which, like, I'm not, I don't know exactly how true that was. Even if some guy's your employee, you spend that long on the road. In reality, they didn't ever took an 8-week road trip. They took like a 1.5 year long road trip together. Wow, yeah, exactly. So like they spent a lot of time on the road. Even if he's your employee, you're probably gonna grow pretty close to him. So I don't know if they were like really never friends. That might be going a little too far. But that being said, like I'm not Don Shirley's brother. Marie Shirley is, and that's what Marie Shirley had to say. So I feel like I should at least like put it out there until he.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know like the full like story behind like the whole trip, right? Because those two are like the only people that can actually tell us like what actually happened.
And they were both dead.
Yeah, and even then you have to listen to Tony's side with a grain of salt, and you would have to like really listen to Don Shirley because his story. I mean, if they were trying to tell a story about the trip, they did a terrible job at this movie. I'm sorry, like they did a really terrible job, especially like with the amount of time they spent on like bullshit scenes, within the movie.
Yeah. So, like, we should add this movie is I found it a slog, man. You've had a long ass movie. Shit.
Yeah, like they put so much. Yeah, they put so much. Like the early scene with like Tony Lip was so long.
Oh, they spent so long just getting him to. It's a half an hour before they even get in the car.
Oh my god! Like it was so long, and then like just extra time on like just dumb shit. Dumb interaction between Tony and his other like Italian
dumbass fucking Italian mob friends.
Like, yeah, like just and then the part where like Don has to like beg Tony to stay, and Tony was like, "Are you serious? Like I'm staying. Like what?" That was also supposed to be like a powerful moment to establish their friendship, I guess. But it was
and they just that comes out of nowhere. They just throw that in. Like he's literally just some random place like in like the fucking upper South or something, and like his buddies are just at the same hotel that they're pulling up to, and he gets offered work randomly, and they speak Italian in front of Dr. Shirley, who spoiler like knows Italian, and so like he intercepts him and is like, Tony, please don't abandon me. I'll give you a raise. Like, road manager. And Tony's like, hey, I'll just go tell him like that I'm busy walking here and that I can't walk there. So it's fine. But to me, like, first of all, like, they're just there randomly taking care of some random business in the same city that they are at the same time. That's fucking. Yeah. Are you kidding me? Yeah. It's like a screenwriter came up with that, and it didn't happen in real life, which is exactly my point.
Yeah, like it was.
It fails as a film. It fails as a message about race. Cole, I really appreciate you joining me today.
Thanks, man. It's an honor to be on your show.